Did you know that according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there are about 1 million car accidents with deer each year that kill 200 Americans, cause more than 10,000 personal injuries, and about $1 billion in vehicle damage? The scene I will be arguing is that of Gilmore Girls, Season 1, Episode 4, The Deer Hunters, where Rory, one of the main characters, gets in a car accident with a deer. As someone who has been driving for almost 3 years now and has had numerous encounters with deer on the Robert Moses Causeway and watched every episode of Gilmore Girls and the Netflix reboot, I feel I'm very much so qualified to argue this topic. I believe that this scene of Rory being hit by a deer is plausible because deer are dangerous and deer cause billions of dollars in damage and other fees per year. First, let me describe the scene to you so you have a better understanding of where I'm coming from. The scene is preceded with Rory, a straight-A student, well-rounded, recently switching to private school with a much stricter curriculum and getting a D on her first paper. After receiving such a low grade, Rory is told that her next test is worth 20% of her final grade, and she realizes she must do well on this exam or she may fail for the year. As any student would, she spends the next week cramming for her exam and studying all night. The night before the exam, Rory and her mom spend the entire night studying and going over her notes until they both fall asleep on the kitchen table with books spread everywhere. The day has finally arrived when Rory has to take her test, and she oversleeps and misses her bus, a feeling that every student knows. After realizing the time and struggling to get dressed, Rory finds out her mom can't drive her to school and Rory is forced to drive herself. While driving to school, Rory stops at a stop sign and calls a close friend, Lane, to see if by any chance she left some notes that she was missing at her house due to the fact they were studying the day before. It is then Rory feels her car shake as she hears a loud bang. She screams, "Oh my God," while on the phone with Lane, and continues to tell Lane how she got hit by a deer, and Lane has a bit of a hard time understanding that Rory was hit by the deer and didn't indeed hit said deer. They are both very frazzled, and in the end, Rory is late to her test and is unable to take it, so the notes she was so concerned about seem a little silly to be worried about. So you're probably curious as to how I feel deer are dangerous. The scene I have previously described is plausible because deer are overabundant and dangerous. And according to Ecological Impacts of Deer Overabundance by Steve E. Cote, deer are overabundant when they A. threaten human life or livelihood, B. are too numerous for their own good, C. depress the density of economically or aesthetically important species, or D. cause ecosystem dysfunction. And deer actually do all of these things, which makes them very dangerous, not only to humans but to other wildlife. So deer are also dangerous because according to Colorado's Parks and Wildlife Manager Cody Wigner, they are most active at dusk and dawn when visibility is low and most people are commuting to and from work. And during the winter season, when the nights are a bit longer, it's their mating season, so they're more likely to be active and makes them more of a danger to drivers and themselves. So this is true for the scene from Gilmore Girls because it's about 7 o'clock when Rory is driving to school, and even though she didn't hit the deer, she still couldn't see it coming, which explains why she didn't just continue driving in order not to get hit. And in addition to not being able to see the deer coming, Rory was also distracted by numerous other things and in all honesty shouldn't have been behind the wheel. The amount of damage deer cause to cars yearly and the money spent repairing vehicles after being in an accident with a deer or other large animal also proves this scene is something that could actually happen. So according to Marcel P. Hudiger, author of Cost-Benefit Analysis of Mitigation Measures Aimed at Reducing Collisions with Large Ungulates in the United States and Canada, a decision support tool, the average deer vehicle collision in 2007 cost a rough total of $6,617 for things such as vehicle repair costs, towing, carcass removal, human injuries, or even human fatalities, depending how serious the accident is. So this almost $7,000 is for one car accident with a deer. Now, if you factor in the fact I already quoted the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and said there are 1 million car accidents with deer each year, this $7,000 becomes a much larger number and a bigger problem for the average American, especially because $7,000 is only the average. There could be outliers that are much higher depending on the severity of the accident. Luckily for Rory, the accident wasn't too severe, and she only had a dent on the side of her car and nobody was injured. So, you may be wondering if there are any ways these accidents can be prevented, and the answer is yes. According to Rodney Van Der Ree, in his article, Effects of Roads and Traffic on Wildlife Populations and Landscape Function, Road Ecology is Moving Towards Larger Scales, he states, at a smaller spatial scale, Grossman combined real data on the movement of moose with agent-based computer simulations to investigate if the removal of salt pools or their relocation from adjacent to the highway to 100 to 1,500 meters away from the road would result in fewer moose vehicle collisions. Their model predicted that the removal of salt pools from near the edge of the highway would result in almost 50% reduction in moose vehicle collisions. While I know this particular model is dealing with moose vehicle collisions, the same would be seen with deer collisions because deer also enjoy salt. And this is actually joked about in the episode when Rory is trying to find the deer to see if it's okay, and Lane tells her to give it salt because deers like salt. So the scene of Rory getting into a collision with the deer is plausible due to the fact that deer are overly abundantly dangerous and cause billions of dollars of damage and other fees each year.